Welcome to Live Like an Acrobat. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time World Acrobatic Gymnastics Champion, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, and circus artist. I'm also an advocate for rain. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I discuss acro handstanding in terms of training tips, coaching, and I explore circus and acrobatic gymnastics competitive life as I have lived it from past to current, and I theorize on what the future may bring in these fields. On each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I will bring you insight through my own experiences, which are rooted in a perspective built on social justice advocacy and how these important issues continue to intersect between the circus arts and acrobatics competitive world at large. On each episode, I have the pleasure of discussing these various narratives with a variety of fascinating special guests. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Please consider a donation to encourage the continuation and evolution of this podcast. The details of how to donate are located in the show notes. Please make sure to check out the circuspreneurblog.com for extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I am available for handstand private sessions and workshops through aerialfitbodies.com, and in a new announcement, I'm also a Circo certified trainer. Check out circo.co, a new circus school online international platform where you can learn hand balancing with me and learn so many other circus disciplines from trained cirque performers from all over the world. Check out my new vlog series, Think Like an Acrobat, which is available exclusively on Circus Talk as a pro series. It's offering pro tips to professionals within the circus arts industry. On the first episode of Think Like an Acrobat, out now on Circus Talk, I interview master prop maker and juggler Claudia Specht about how you can learn how to master the side hustle during these uncertain times. For those of you seeking a virtual burlesque experience, I will be participating in the upcoming Marvelous and Melanated, which presents LA's Black Burlesque and Variety Artists Review. Follow at Marvelous and Melanated for show dates, cast, and ticket link. All details will be available in the show notes. On this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I have the inspiring pleasure of interviewing special guest, founder and creative director of SOAR Aerial Dance, Miss Gena DuBose. Gena DuBose is a movement artist, aerial hoop coach, and the founder and creative director of SOAR Aerial Dance. Aerial arts, specifically lyra, have been her passion since 2009. Though Gena is not a classically trained dancer, she has a natural athleticism that she uses to bring her own style of movement and grace to her artistry. She has spent over 10 years navigating her path of creativity with a focus on physical awareness, movement capabilities, and how they pertain to the human body. After gaining certifications in stop Pilates, power yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and personal training, she began to apply the skills she learned to her aerial practice. Gena has worked with many artists and dance educators to help perfect her aerial skill set. She's been lucky enough to have her mentors and coaches, Bolin Willis Sager, Rachel Strickland, Shannon McKenna, and Lori Hernandez, each one helping refine her techniques and patience. Through their guidance, Gena's passion as a coach continues to grow. Her performance work with SOAR Aerial Dance focuses on collaborating with professional, local artists to bridge the gap between aerial dance and performance art in her community, telling honest stories along the way. As the founder of SOAR, Gena helps students thrive through creativity and technique, offering virtual private lessons, workshops, and teacher trainings to everyone from novice students to professional artists. She is the creator of the Aerial Instructor Enhancement Program, a 6-week interactive online course for instructors to gain confidence in their teaching while adding creative techniques to their classes. In the spring of 2021, Gena will launch her aerial hoop teacher training, a full aerial hoop curriculum that she has curated over the last 8 years. She is so excited to share this training with everyone. Modeled after a yoga teacher training, this deep dive into what it means to teach aerial skills is given through the lens of safety, awareness, and technique. Gena breaks it down. From basics to level 2, this teacher training is for aerialists who are ready to understand each skill, how to teach it safely, and how to teach skill progression. When Gena is not creating art with SOAR or hosting teacher training programs, she can be found teaching lyra sequencing, a workshop devised around threading movements together seamlessly while imparting bits of lyra theory. Please welcome Gena DuBose to the show. Gena DuBose is a queen. She is. She knows her worth. She knows why she is on this planet, and she knows why she's in the performing circus arts too. There is something about speaking to somebody who is so definitive when they speak, and Gena's a true testament to being witness to someone who is comfortable in the skin that they're in, no matter how uncomfortable others may seem to think that she should be or ought to be in that skin. Gena was born to be black. She was born to be black and beautiful and stunning and radiant, and she is a force to be reckoned with within the aerial arts. She loves lyra. She loves circus. She loves her hoop. She is intoxicated by the muse of which she has discovered in her lyra and in her capacity to translate aerial arts knowledge and aerial arts capabilities and wisdoms. I was so inspired after speaking with Gena, and so inspired during my talk with her. I had to really watch myself and not just do a billion high fives the entire time that I was speaking with her. When you listen to Gena, you listen to someone who is very clear about what she thinks is the way forward for the circus arts community, and I think that's very important. People like Gena and like myself have learned so much, even when we have not wanted to, about how to exist in the world, and actually how to exist quite harmoniously if you think about it, because to be able to sustain in environments where people are not making an easy time for you, you have to be very good at harmony, and you have to be very good at peacekeeping. I think that's a very fortunate perspective to understand when you are listening to Gena or to me speak about inclusivity and diversity and representation in and around the circus arts world and the world at large, that we have a PhD, or as Gena has a doctorate in some degrees, in peacekeeping. And it's what I have also related to those that are not of color, that when you are marginalized or not given the space to speak so openly, or just not come to for what you know, that you spend a lot of time observing, you spend a lot of time quiet, not necessarily because you want to be, but because it's a survival skill, it's coping. But what that also creates is an incredible ability to be brilliant and to use those observational skills. And I think it's amazing continuously during this time, if you are leaning into these podcasts and listening to the stories that I've been sharing of so many brilliant Black artists and artists of color who I know otherwise would not be telling their stories, because we often aren't the ones that people seek out for interviews, even though our stories are relevant to this environment and so pertinent, as Gena will describe and tell you in this interview, because we have such extensive knowledge in this industry. And what Gena will also remind you as well is that, again, continuing on and moving forward, these conversations are not meant to be divisive, but they're meant to bring us closer together. And by sitting back and being in spaces where you listen more than you speak, you can learn what we've learned over so many years, that you will actually learn a lot. So please enjoy my conversation with the poetic lyricist, Ms. Gena DuBose.
Hi, Gena. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to speak with you, Gena. You've been such a voice for change over this past year within the circus industry, pushing the movement of inclusion and representation forward. And for listeners, you can watch Gena's powerful interview on Uprising, a YouTube series hosted by fellow circus artist and advocate Noelle Acrobat, where she speaks so honestly about her experiences within the circus arts industry as a Black aerialist and business owner. And I myself recently did a panel hosted by Noelle Acrobat for the virtual ACE EdCon, or the American Circus Educators Conference, which you also presented at, Gena, right, as a trainer?
I did, yeah, for virtual coaching.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, and on the panel, we were discussing how to fundamentally transform circus studios to ensure they are more diverse and inclusive. And I echoed some of your sentiments on the panel about how you pointedly addressed the fact that reaching out to communities of color does not mean trying to bring in the most disadvantaged of these demographics into circus studios, but it should mean putting focus on the vast amounts of middle-class communities of color that can totally afford an adequate path to circus sustainability. And I've always thought that, and have always been bothered by the status quo opinion about how our communities of color don't have the money to do circus.
Right.
Because it's more truthful that we're not treated equitably in these environments, so we don't stay, nor do we flourish. And
right.
I said during the ACE panel that we ourselves will use many excuses about why we've left the circus studio as a student or instructor, and never necessarily tell a circus studio that we left because we didn't like how we were treated, or
right.
a parent recognizing that, you know, their kid isn't receiving the treatment they deserve and takes their money elsewhere into a sport or an activity that they at least know will ensure their kid a college scholarship, even if they have to continue to face racial bias. At least there's some tangible gain there. And most circus studios never articulate a proper path to a realistic circus career either, which further contributes, in my experience, to communities of color being wary of investing their time and money into a circus program for their kids.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're always looked at as different in general. So, you know, people don't always think that we as Black people have the same skill level or talent that white people do. So circus studios don't put as much interest in us as they do their white counterpart, or our white counterparts. So that also is a hindrance to us as well. So it's definitely not a money thing. And it's, in my opinion, it's rather annoying when you see all of a sudden everybody's like, we have to give scholarships and we have to give money and we have to give free spaces because that's the only way that Black people can afford to join us in this stuff. And it's like, no. Maybe you just haven't made it inclusive enough for us. Maybe we don't feel comfortable, and maybe because we're not seen, that's why we don't come into your space. It's not about money. I personally am tired of feeling like I need a handout, or like I need to hand something out. And I'm sure a lot of other Black people feel that way too.
Right. I also mentioned on the ACE panel, whenever I've gone into studios over the years, which I've been going into studios and before that acrobatic studios now for over 20 years, that most people think that I'm lost. Like was looking for the idea or I was looking for Sephora, but I ended up in a circus studio. And do I know what this place is? Have you been here before? Do you know what circus is? So it's those like small little, we would say microaggressions that we face when we come into these spaces, even now. No matter how much progress we've all think that we've made in these predominantly white spaces still, that are incredibly, siphoned off from the rest of even, youth sports and, all sorts of, kind of like general kind of activities. These are very niche environments that we go into. And I, remind people no matter how far I've come in my career, even as like an instructor or not even being seen as a potential instructor when I'm in circus studios and circus environments and what that does to you and the spaces where I have left and not necessarily told anybody why I decided not to come, but it's because I didn't feel at all like I could become a part of that family and community in the way that I saw others being able to do that. And that was, has been a source of, consternation throughout my career. So do you want to speak on that more, Gena?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know a Black person that hasn't walked into a studio that hasn't felt like someone thought that we were lost or like we just didn't feel, growing up as a Black person, I never felt like an outsider. I think that other people try to make that happen. But as a coach, I learned how to put my head down and do the work. Like early on, I learned how to just say, you know what, I am who I am. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the work. And then I'm going to just be the best that I am, which has led me where I am today, So yeah, it is what it is at this point. Hopefully we can change it though.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Well, with these conversations and with what I believe you as the founder of SOAR, an aerial dance school that helps students thrive through creativity and technique, offering virtual private lessons, workshops, and teacher trainings to everyone from novice students to professional artists. Can you share how, through offering these programs, you are seeking to address the inequities that have negatively affected the circus studio communities at large? This is your push for change that you've been doing.
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm less worried about trying to pull other Black students in and more worried about showing that there are professional Black coaches. There are professional Black performers who know what we're talking about, who have the background, So I started this, I'm 35 now. So I started when I was maybe like 23. And before I even got into aerial, I was doing yoga and Pilates. I got those certifications. I did my personal training certification. I was really big into understanding and learning anatomy and just soaking in so much knowledge of how the body moves and how it works, that when I went into aerial arts, it just became second nature. So as I became a coach and started coaching, my main focus has been to really just be the best that I can be, because I don't see a lot of people like me, right? Like I don't see a lot of Black coaches. I don't see a lot of Black female coaches, and I don't see a lot of Black coaches that are put to the level of other, again, white people. So yeah, I decided, you know what, and this might be kind of off topic, but I always felt like people weren't giving me the chance to be the best that I wanted to be. So instead of trying to conform to what they wanted me to be or not wanted me to be, or basically if they didn't want to give me a seat at a table, then I decided to make my own table, which came SOAR Aerial Dance, where I wanted to just blend aerial dance and really honest aerial coaching, like where it's not about tricks, it's not about drops, it's about creating the love for the movement and the love for the art and letting people know, like, you know what, Black people can do it. You can come to us and learn from us, because we have just as much to offer as anybody else. Like, we are just as valuable. And I think that that's starting to be seen now, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement and quarantine and everything working for us instead of against us. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And when I was on the ACE panel, and they were speaking about different methods and things to make circus studios more inclusive and diverse. And I spoke about how I don't really feel like after this time of quarantine that anybody really has any excuse anymore with the access to virtual learning to deny the fact that they can't find Black representation to come into their studios, because I said you can have Black representation now in your studio every single day by way of virtual learning.
Yeah, but also I don't want people to just seek us out so that they can fill some sort of Black quota, right? Like, there's a difference between authentically wanting to diverse your studio because you see that one of your students or one of your clients is lonely, is the only person, and you're like, I want to make this better for them, right? That's different than just being like, you know what, the niche thing this year in 2020 is bringing in Black people. So let's go to the hood and find some Black people, and here's a scholarship and come into the studio, right? So I think that there is a valuable lesson in, and it goes back to, like, are you trying to be anti-racist? Are you trying to, or are you just trying to fill a quota? Like, what are you trying to do with your studio? Personally, I don't want to go to a studio where they're only using me or coming to me because I am Black. And I have been approached that way since the Black Lives Matter movement started in quarantine, where I've had people come to me literally and say, hey, I'm coming to you because you are a Black aerialist, and I want to know your Black experience as a Black aerialist and a Black coach. And for me, I'm like, no, you either want me as a coach because of what I do, because of my talent, or you don't. You're not going to fill some quota for, just by coming at me because you see, oh, there's a Black coach over there. Let me go, suck the life out of her so I can get all information from her. I don't think that is fair. So I think it really matters about being really authentic, because inclusion doesn't matter unless you understand why you're trying to be inclusive, right? Like, it really just, the point of it all kind of matters to me.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, it's intention. And I think that that's a good lesson that everybody's learning this year, because the old status quo behaviors of going out and doing the outreach doesn't work. It never has.
Right.
And we won't be satisfied with that moving forward. And we all know that we've transcended so many of those barriers with our level of skill and with our level of intelligence and understanding with this environment. And, I spoke about also too on the panel in saying, when you are bringing in when they say, oh, there's no one, that's kind of like Black in this community that would be interested in circus. They said, well, circus means a lot of things, and to run a studio and to run a program means a lot of things. And there's a lot of people with a lot of very interesting backgrounds that could adequately serve your community as people of color that are educators that could come into your space and assist you with those things. I spoke to them about including, bringing in, social workers or therapists that are of color to help them to understand these issues within their circus studios. You need somebody who is of color to help you to foster that way forward, so that then when you are seeking out people of color to come into your studios and your environments, which some part of you is going to have to do that, obviously. You are going to have to rearrange your environment so that people feel welcome there. but you're also too going to have to be learning how to re-educate yourself to be able to do that. And so for me, when everyone's talking about what they just don't understand and know how to do, I said there's a lot of people in a lot of different backgrounds, that are therapists, that are physical therapists, that are from all those different genres that help to create the nucleus and the bedrock of a circus studio that could be of color, that are incredibly hyper skilled and intelligent, that will help you to recreate and refocus your circus studio. And they're just a town away. They're just a city away. When I speak about grants and things, I said, your grant doesn't necessarily have to go, like I have been saying as well, to, a family that we know it's going to take an entire village for that child to be able to move forward in the circus environment. I mean, it's incredibly expensive. It's incredibly difficult. And that's not to negate what we can also do within those environments. But I, again, feel like, within focusing on that, that's when people feel like, oh, well, that's just like a crazy uphill battle. It's like, well, exactly. That's because you're negating the people that can, comfortably be there and exist there and do better. And you can assist people that maybe need a little bit of a boost, which could be great. And that's not a handout. That's just a little bit of a boost for people that are, that need a little bit of help financially. Like my family was. I came from a very middle class background, and it was very expensive and hard. It was, but we had the means to be able to do it. So I challenge all those assumptions. I think everybody should continue to challenge all those assumptions and continue to think outside of their box. I said, when you're thinking that somebody's just to train right away, that's not this. They're not on a different planet. They're just a train right away as somebody that would be interested in coming and working in your studio, who has the credentials, who has the experience, and who has the expertise, and just happens to be a person of color. I think that's what we all continue to tell people. And I just happen to be a person of color. I just happen to be a Black artist with these skills and with this know-how.
Yeah, which just goes back to that all of this goes beyond circus. All of this goes beyond aerial or tumbling or, acrobatics or clowning. It just goes beyond this world that we've created. It is a systemic problem that needs to be addressed. So the only way that there can really, really honestly be inclusion in circus as a whole is if people change their mindset. And in order to change your mindset, it goes beyond circus, right? It goes beyond like the things that I do. It's who are you interacting with? Why are you interacting with those people? What do your family think? What do you understand microaggressions and racism? And do you know when you are creating a microaggressive and passive aggressive environment? Because if you are in your daily life having microaggressions towards people of color or being passive aggressive, which a lot of other people are, then you're going to bring that into a studio, right? Like, so it's not just that. I mean, it's like, how is your staff? Does your staff know how to interact with people of color? Does your staff know when they are in the wrong, or that we as Black people, especially Black women, are always painted as angry? Why are we getting mad? Do you understand the disparity between all of us, right? Or between the two races? So I believe that inclusion goes beyond circus. I think it is a problem that people need to look past the studio and understand what's happening inside of their households. What is being taught to them? What are they teaching their family members or their kids or whatever? How do they interact with other people of color? What do they think? What do you really think about people of color? And until people can really dive into that, there will not be change in the circus community until people understand where their bias comes from.
Can you share some personal experiences that you've had as an aerialist and instructor that were shaped more by bias and less than your actual abilities and skills?
Oh, girl, are you kidding me? That's like my whole career. I mean, that's like my whole career. I mean, I could pick like a couple instances, but it's been my whole career, like throughout. So what, I've been doing this for 11 years or so. I think I stepped in the studio in like 2008 or something. I don't even know. But man, I think I've had like a couple instructors, we'll say like 3, instructors. I had F.A. Ilke, who was my flying trapeze instructor. I had Blue DeLahue, and I had Rachel Strickland, who I think of as more of like a cult, like an aerial life coach. But those three, okay, have been three people who have stood out that have not been biased, who have not looked at me and thought, oh, well, she can't do X, Y, and Z because of whatever problem. Those three looked beyond my blackness and included me in whatever it was. FA wanted to bring me up and he wanted to teach me how to do the board on flying trapeze, and he didn't care. He was like, dude, let's do this. Rachel Strickland, same thing. Blue DeLahue, my first ever aerial coach, she was just dope and fly, and she really just didn't care. She wanted me to be the best, and she wanted me to perform, and she never wanted to hold me back, ever, like ever, ever, ever. She saw talent in me before, like as soon as I stepped in the door, and I was talentless, right? But those are three out of an 11 going on 12-year career, right? Like, and I've had a lot of coaches. So I can't pinpoint, I mean, I can say that I feel like I would walk into a studio, and being a Black woman, I'm naturally strong. I kind of have an athletic background, but being a Black woman, I am athletic, and I don't need to try that hard to be athletic. And you can see that on other people's faces. You can see that in their interactions with me. You can see that my dreadlocks and my muscles and stuff is intimidating to some people, so they keep their distance and then they kind of snicker behind my back. Or I went to a studio. I lived in Florida, and we lived there for a year and a half. And in that year and a half, I went to a studio, and the owner was teaching the classes, and her and the other instructors that taught the hoop classes, they barely communicated with me at all. They would only come over. There was multiple students in class, and they would only come over to teach me a skill, and then they would move on. But they never taught me precision. They never taught me flow. They never taught me theory. They never taught me anything. Instead, they would go to the other students, the ones that were petite and blonde and flexible and just perfect, and they would spend a lot of time molding them. And that has been how it's been throughout my whole career, until I just decided to take a ballet class, right? And learn how to do it on my own. So can I pinpoint one instance? No. I could say that my whole entire career has been me walking into a building and feeling like very alone, feeling very segregated from the group. And people just try and deny that, and they try and make it seem like that's not really what it is. But until you walk through Black skin, you just won't know how that feels. But yeah, it's been my whole career until I started SOAR. And then I promised that I would never make anybody feel the way that people have made me feel for the last 11 or 12 years.
That's powerful. Yeah. Even just recounting those experiences, I share my experiences of being with my white duo partners, which I, had for, a majority of my career, and being in studios where people come to us both and only ask one of us how to do a skill or how to do a trick, and not asking me at all about what I know about how to do that trick and how to do that skill. And, there's that mixture of misogyny within that. But, even with my last duo partner, who came from a circus background and didn't come from the competitive background, but even within that, he would remind people, you should also ask Shenea because she's the two-time world champion. She might have something to say, but I it's something that I dealt with for years. And my partners trying trying to also find solutions in and around that. We would navigate it around together, and it would be very difficult for them also too to see people just walk over me. And then when I started working by myself and being a solo hand balancer in spaces, people would come to me and ask me if I knew someone that I could refer them to.
Yeah.
So it changed. It no longer was my white partner that they would ask the question for, and never asked me for any kind of acrobatic instruction. Never. They then, when I was by myself, would then ask me if I could refer them to somebody. So it was still never coming to me for any of those things. And so, it makes me incredibly sad. And
you can see, and it's so amazing. Like, just your story made me feel like the first show that my company put on. So I used to perform aerial hoops for a burlesque troupe in this area before the shutdown, before everything got locked down. And then I went to start my own company, and I was doing like a little cabaret performance. And I brought some people in from that troupe just to kind of work with us, and you could see the stark difference in how and being a part of both companies, right? So I would see the difference of how the performers would treat the white owner of the burlesque troupe, and how respectful they were, and how amazing they were, how they showed up on time, and how they put their all into it, how they didn't like talk back or anything like that. It was like this perfect, wonderful, happy friendship. To working with me, I asked them to come and perform in the show, and to working with me, and there was eye rolls, and there was distrust, and it was like they didn't have faith in the project that I was putting together and the performance that I was putting on. And that really hurt me, right? So I don't think that people really understand that they think so low of us as a whole and as a culture. Like you like me as a Black person, I see it. And if I were to confront these people, they would be like, absolutely not. That's not it. I was tired or something, right? Like, you're tired for 6-7 weeks. But it's just so different, and it's so disheartening, to the point where you kind of look around and you realize, well, who can I trust? Who can I trust? Yeah.
Right. And it comes down to, like you said, trusting yourself and building for yourself. I wanted to ask, what are the changes, since we are in this ongoing conversation now, throughout this pandemic? It has been months now that we've been having these conversations around this movement, because I don't like to even just say conversation, because to me, this is not a conversation. This is a movement. In and around a systematic issue. So it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than just a conversation. And this is things that we are all trying to build the bedrock for generations to come. This is not a fad. This is not something that we're all looking to solve in the next 6 to 7, 8 months. That's completely unrealistic and makes no sense to me. This is something that will take years. And we are speaking in terms of America, but we all know that, circus is the world. So for me, I'm always thinking, no matter how many steps and changes we've made in and around here, we all know that the rest of our career is in the world, and that this conversation and this movement is so many different moving parts. But within that, I wanted to ask what you've seen outside of your sphere of influence, which we'll get back to that too, brings you some kind of hope around the conversations of representation. And do you think that there's some concrete solutions that you can speak to that you think will bring about real change that you've seen? And I just wanted to insert one thing that I've seen, which is not in circus, but it is in the entertainment world that I've seen, which I'm sure that you've seen, which is the Oscars now has this new rule for Best Picture, basically, where you have to have certain parts of every single Best Picture, a certain amount of diversity and inclusion representation, and that's across all spectrums, which I think is a very good thing, even though people are outraged in some ways and thinking and saying it's going to ruin creativity, which I always say back. Why does diversity and representation always include less skilled and less capable and less creative and less good? It just really boggles my mind hearing all the different artists around this, because, I'm in LA, and I go in and out of LA a lot, and a lot of my friends are in the union. I'm in the union. I'm in SAG. So, I think that it's a great thing. I think it's long overdue. But, I was even hearing some other people say these excuses of, then how are people going to, how are they going to, it's going to siphon off a certain level of creativity. And I said, when you have more options and a bigger pool of brilliant people to pull from, how can that erode creativity and artistry? I would really like somebody to explain that to me, because I'm at a loss of figuring out how that works and how you see that. I also think, so now all the directors and people like hiring and doing all these things, now their ability to choose high quality and high level people has atrophied, now that they have to include all these people that they never wanted to include before, because it was convenient for them. So again, in terms of that, that to me is the kind of biggest concrete solution I've seen in and around the entertainment arts, which is, again, long overdue for SAG and for Hollywood. But I said, as much as I love Meryl Streep, we can't give her every Oscar, because there's a lot of amazing people. There's a lot of amazing groups in this world that do not get seen. It's the same 10 to 15, and then we have the tokenized ones that are about the same 10 or 15, right? And we know that it's not the sum of who we are as artists and as creators. So what have you seen, Gena? You can speak on that, or you can speak on, the other aspect of that question. And what have you seen that's concrete that you feel like, okay, that I like, that could work, and that I see down the road can maybe look like this and this and this. And even if it's not necessarily what you're doing, but things that you've seen.
Yeah, so that's a hard question, because I honestly don't think that I have seen, I honestly don't think that I have seen anything that has been like, oh yeah, I don't. And call me a cynic, which I might be. The only thing that I can really say and speak to is that I've worked really hard to be in a place that I am right now, to be the coach that I am, to be the artist that I am, right? And now that Black people have been screaming from the top of our lungs about the injustices that have happened over the last 400 years, and white ears are finally starting to listen. Now that that's finally happening, people have started to seek me out. People have started to notice. People have stopped looking at a white artist and then looking at me and going, well, she's good for a Black aerialist. People have started to be like, oh, she has something to offer because she is her own, right? So the only thing that I can really say is that I see a future where Black people in general are now going to just stop needing to be accepted by white people and to just do it. I think we spent a long time trying to be included and trying to be accepted. And my partner is white and stuff, so I'm not trying to say like segregation never, integration now, or whatever.
I'm biracial. I always have to remind people that. I'm like, my mom, I'm biracial. My mom is white. So,
I'm not trying to say that, like, we shouldn't integrate. And I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't segregate. I'm not trying to say any of these things. I'm not trying to say that we should keep ourselves apart, or that we should come together. All I'm trying to say is that all we need to do is know, as Black people, all we need to do is know that we can create our own. We can create our own table. And if white people want to join us, then that's great, but we don't need to join their table. And I think that is starting to be seen. You're seeing more clothing companies that are coming out. There are more cosmetic skincare companies that are coming out, more Black artists and stuff. There's just more that is happening now where Black people are saying, I don't need your table. I can make my own. And that's how I feel, right? Like hell, sorry, excuse my language, but my dance partner, she is a white woman and I love her and I wouldn't give her up for anything, but I don't need her. I don't need anybody to validate my position of where I am in my life and what I do, right? Like we as Black people, we're worth more. We are valued and we are talented and we're freaking amazing and we have a lot to offer. We don't need Cirque du Soleil. We don't need these other white companies to tell us that they need us. We can create our own, and it might look a little different, and it might sound a little different, and it might shake a little different, but that's because we as Black people, we're different. So we're trying to stuff ourselves in these neat little boxes made for white people, but we're not white. We're not neat, and we're not boxes. We come in all shapes and sizes, and we come in all different crafts and creativities. We just don't need to succumb to that. So that's what I see for the future. I see a whole generation of people saying, you know what, screw it. I am who I am, and you can join me or you can leave me alone.
Oh, you're brilliant. Gena, how did you begin your journey as an aerialist? How did you grow up? What age were you when you chose this path? How did you find your way into the aerial arts medium? And, what has led to you being the, just renegade, beautiful person, perfect person that you are today? Let us know. What happened? How did this happen?
I know. So here's the funny thing. I didn't do anything growing up. I played one season of lacrosse because it was a walk-on team. I tried out for cheerleading in the 9th grade, and it was so bad. It was so bad. It was awful. It was really awful, but everybody was just kind of like, girl, if you don't get up and out of here, we're going to have to escort you out. And then my mom, she said that when I was 5, she asked if I wanted to take dance, and I said no, and then she never asked again. So that's the extent of it, right? Like, that's the extent of what it was like for me. I've always been a really fast runner. And I've always been pretty athletic. Like, I could take on things, I could take on things pretty easily, right? Like, my husband took me ice skating, never been ice skating before, and I picked it up immediately. So things come naturally to me. But I did not find aerial until I was like 23. Like I said, I was living in Asheville, and I went to a warehouse party, and there was 2 people that were doing like a trapeze duo thing, and they were honestly doing like the same 3 or 4 moves over and over and over again, but it was so amazing. And then I said, you know what, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And I went and I did it. I found a place to do it, and that next week I did it, and I never looked back. I started with trapeze, static trapeze, which I really loved, and then I went to sling, which back then, this was like, again, 10, 11 years ago, but back then, sling was really boring. It was not as dynamic and fun back then as it was now, as it is now. So I got bored with that pretty quickly, and then I found Lyra. And once I found Lyra, I was like, oh, this is home. So I literally spent the next 10 years just focusing on Lyra. But other than aerial, the only thing that really came naturally that I really loved and enjoyed was yoga. I really loved yoga, and I really loved the mind-body connection, and I really loved the feeling of freedom and the feeling of release and the feeling of, again, being at home. And I hadn't found that since I found Lyra. And so now, fast forward many years later, my coaching is literally a blend of the two. It's like very holistic blend of that. But yeah, I didn't grow up doing much. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I never really thought that I had talent until I found Lyra. And then when I started actually coaching, that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is what my life is supposed to be like. I'm absolutely supposed to teach people how to connect with this apparatus, with this specific apparatus. And honestly, I only do Lyra. Like, I could give 2 craps about doing sling or trapeze or silk or anything else. I really just enjoy Lyra.
You found your love, haven't you?
I did. I love it. And I'm the type of person that's like, I don't need, I was I took a job when I moved to this area. I took a job at a circus school here, and I remember the owner kept being like, "If you did all these other things, we would be able to hire you. If you had more apparatuses underneath your belt, if you could tumble, if you could put a ground act together, if you could do all these things, then you'd be more you'd be hireable or desirable." And I kept being like, "I don't want to do those things. I only want to do Lyra." And I'm really glad that I kept with that, because even though I'm not a gig performer, it allowed me to really hone in on who I am as a Lyra artist. And it really allowed me to connect with um, like what it is to connect with this circular bar, which I'm just really thankful for.
That's so beautiful. That makes me think of when you were saying they were asking you to like try all these other things because it would help you, or you could go into so many different things. Actually, before, years ago, because we've been around for a bit. Before there was, again, so Black aerialists and things. People would beg me to learn aerial. They'd be like, "Oh my God, you would work everywhere if you would be aerialist." Like, everyone's always asking me for Black aerialists. I'm like, are they? Is that a thing? They like come and they ask you for like Black aerialists? You're kidding.
That's
really?
so crazy.
Okay. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, this is years ago. And and I used to do like a lot of flipping and all that stuff too. And I just, I only ended up doing aerial for certain things and stuff. But for me, it was better eventually just to stay like closer to the ground, and be more static for what I could accommodate like internally. But yeah, it really, people have always told me that, like, you'd be a real threat, if you would just come out and be a Black aerialist. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to take my chances with these hand balancing skills and see where it takes me.
Exactly. I'll just same, because I feel like if I were doing all these, for me personally, Gena,
right.
If I were to do all these different things, it would wear me too thin, trying to be perfect at trying to be perfect at all these different things. Like, I can't even imagine, right? Like, I already feel overwhelmed just being like a wife, a mother, and an aerialist. Like, that's enough. I couldn't imagine like adding on all these other things. So, I also really like to direct my focus on something. But I think because I am more naturally, I was never like a natural dancer. Like, I was not a trained dancer. I didn't grow up in any type of movement art. So I think that if I did maybe do that, like if I did learn how to move my body and use my body a lot sooner, then maybe that would be different to now. Like, maybe I would have more of a relationship with things like silks or trapeze or something. But I think I really needed to hone in and focus on what the Lyra meant for me so that I could learn how to move my body with that. Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, as an instructor who provides students with the foundation to take their skills to whatever heights and mediums in the performing arts world that they want to, as we know, circus opportunity is global, and the goal of shaping a student shouldn't stop at preparing them to just work in America, but to thrive in the vast international market. So what is your take on making sure that this important factor is taken into consideration by instructors and studios for artists of color and artists that are not of color too?
So what's your question about international coaching? I got confused.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a long question, and it's got several moving parts. So I'm basically saying, how do you make sure that you're prepping your students to be able to survive on the international circus market with their skills? And if they're students of color or if they're not students of color, like, how do you promote that with your instruction and with your guidance and creating the foundation for that? Because as much as, again, reminding everyone that, when you come into this medium, the goal is, it's the larger world, because you need to be able to exist anywhere in circus with your skills in any continent, in any space, any country. In the environment. And what does that look like to you? Like, how do you feed that, like, through SOAR and through like your programs? And How pointed is that for you in your approach, or do you just see that entirely different?
Yeah. So to be 100% honest, I don't prep them to be international performers. I don't prep them to be, I don't touch that, right? My goal, my job is to make sure that students feel 100% comfortable on the apparatus that they're on. In my case, it's hoop. I also teach people technique wise, technique based things on silks. But regardless of what apparatus you're using, my goal is to make sure that they are the very best artist for them, not for some um, director or for some talent scout or whomever, right? Like my goal is to make sure that they are diving deep into who they are as a movement artist and who they are as a creator. And what does that look like? What does that mean? What does it mean to be creative? Because creativity is subjective, right? So what I might find to be beautiful or to be artistic or whatever, somebody else might not find that to be the same. So that goes for my students and my clients as well. Like I don't care if somebody looks at their art and is like, oh, this is horrific. If my client is happy with it, then I'm happy with it. My goal, my job is to pull that creativity out of them. So I start with everybody has an understanding of lyra theory. What does it mean to move on the hoop? What is the hoop doing? Where are your hands? Where is your body? What body parts need to be what body parts are you using for this movement or for this skill? Why does your leg need to be there? And if your leg moves, then what happens, right? Like how are your arm strokes? How many times are you using your hands to climb up on the hoop? And instead of you using all these little teeny tiny climbs, can you take these really long, beautiful, earthy strokes to get where you need to go? What about lifting your hips? Can you lift your hips and use your pelvis at the same time as you're moving your body instead of being really heavy and weighted? Do you understand that your pelvis is the heaviest part of your body? So if you don't have a connection with that everything else is just going to kind of fall apart and be floopy or floppy, right? So my goal, if a student's goal is to prep for like an international competition or to prep for like some sort of international performance company or something like that, they're going to have to go somewhere else, because my goal is to get people to understand their body and the value, the connection that they have between their body and the hoop. And how does that feel? What is that relationship like? Because far too often in the recreational world, we have people that want to be performers and that want to be movers, but there is a disconnection with the apparatus that they're using. There's not enough coaches that are teaching how to connect to the bar. So that's where I come in, right? I come in and I don't, like me in general, my style focuses a lot on lyra threading, lyra theory, lyra sequencing, being very lyrical, being very fluid, being very smooth with intention. So people come to me and they find that they get something a little bit different, because I don't focus on tricks and I don't focus on the latest skills or the things that's going to get you extra points or something like that. I focus on connection. So sadly, I am not on the international market for my students. I can't help them with that, but I can help them really become better movers with their apparatus.
Well, and by doing that, thus you give them the tools that they need to be able to do anything. So I love that is your philosophy, because it's how you see this environment that you're in and how you see, moving people to where they want to go. And I think that's also really beautiful too, to remind everyone that every single space is unique. And everybody's not vying for the same goal. But also too, for me, what's underlying all of that is you putting that within people in the most beautiful way, like you're speaking about in terms of connection, and then you're able to do everything. So that you create in a very kind of innovative way of how to create somebody who is multidimensional, that can exist in like a lot of spaces and is not binary, right? So it's not, there's not just one way to do that. There's not just one way to be and exist and move somebody into whatever environment they kind of want to, kind of blossom into, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like whatever your goal is, you bring that goal to me and then I'll help you. But I only help people that really want to put in the work. Yeah, because you got to want to put in the work, and you got to want to, because I'm making people do it over and over and over again, like it's no joke up in here, people are going to have to get up, get down, get up, get down, get up, get down, and they're going to have to hustle for it. And then when our 45 minutes or our hour is done, then I expect you to be on your apparatus, like really diving it in or driving it in, excuse me. So yeah, that's me as a coach.
Yeah, beautifully put. Getting them into that hustle.
I know, and so the other part of that is like being a teacher trainer. When I work with other instructors, I'm trying to drive that same thing where they're looking at their students a little bit differently. Like instead of just teaching your students these tricks that have no foundation, teach them what it means to actually be a part of their apparatus, teach them what it means to go beyond the tricks. Like at a certain point, they're going to have to get up, they're going to have to get down. Maybe they want to do some floor work. Like what does that mean? So I'm constantly trying to get, whether they're students or whether they're instructors, I'm trying to get people to really understand the connection and looking at the movement as a whole.
I love that. And I also love that one of your personal mentors is the lovely Shannon McKenna, the creator of the Artist Athlete podcast, whom I think is such a rad woman. And so I wanted to ask how her mentorship inspired your path, Gena, and how do you mentor within the community yourself? You touched on that a bit, but I'd love for you to expand on that.
So Shannon is more of like, she's like my mentor, like my homegirl mentor. She's somebody that when I need real talk, I call her up. And then she's like, you're being dumb. Here, this is this thing, right? So she's very much, when I say mentor, I really mean homegirl, because she's that person that if I feel like I'm failing, she's the one that's like, well, let's rework this, because why do you think that you're failing? Like, what's going on inside of your head? And because of my conversations and my chats with her, that's how the enhancement program came about, the Aerial Instructor Enhancement Program, because I was bitching and complaining so much about, the lack of creativity in classrooms. And then Shannon said, well, if you want to change it, you're going to have to create it. And so I did. So she's somebody who I look up to because she's no holds bar, she's somebody that is just the real deal. And I appreciate people like that because I'm like that myself. So when I coach, when I mentor, I am very real and I'm very honest, and I try and be as polite as possible. I really believe in constructive criticism. I really believe that you don't need to break somebody down to build them up, but that you can be very honest with them and very real with them about, what is happening. So I think Shannon and I are very similar in that aspect. Basically, what she gives me is what I give to other people. So I think everybody needs somebody in their corner who can be very real and very honest and point you in the right direction without making you feel bad. But that's like very encouraging, but also saying, look, this ain't it. This ain't it, girl. Let's try something else, So yeah.
Well, what advice do you have for fellow circuspreneurs, as I like to call us? And I want to remind listeners that African American women are the leading group statistically in growing successful entrepreneurship. So, hello. So please enlighten us, Gena, about how you are contributing to that statistic by successfully shaping the aerial arts world with SOAR.
Oh man. So yes. So as far as I like to break this up into two sections, right? As far as coaching, Black women are bomb. We're just so bomb. We are. And I don't think that we're I don't think that we're I don't think that we're represented enough in like our honest, authentic selves, right? I think we've had to keep a part of ourselves very quiet and very pristine, and we're just dope. And I think that I have a lot to offer. I love the way that I coach. I coach in a very honest, a very holistic manner, and I'm very real with my clients. And at the end of the day, they love the way I coach, right? So that works. And then as an aerialist, as a performer with my company, we tell really honest stories, right? So right now I'm working on producing my show Becoming, which is about trauma and how family trauma affects your life throughout the ages, all the way up until your 30s, and what that means. So as a Black woman, I want to be able to tell a story that is not just rooted in pain, because I feel like the media does a great job with making it seem like Black people are just always in pain, and that's just the only thing that we have to offer. But that's not true, right? We are so resilient at the same time. Like, through our pain, we are thriving. We are thriving, and we are creators, and we create stuff. We just keep knocking them down, and people can't keep up. And that's what it means to be a Black woman. That's what it means to be a Black artist. That's what it means to be a Black coach. I'm constantly creating. I'm constantly on my hustle when it comes to this, and I just love it. And I think that I have like 400 years of ancestors behind my back, just pushing me, driving me, going, Gena, you don't need anybody else. You got it. Like, you're good. You're good. You're good. So yeah, that's what that means for me.
That means so much. I love it. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to say before we leave one another, Gena?
Yeah. So I'm the creator of the Aerial Instructor Enhancement Program, which is a 6-week online course for aerialists, aerial instructors, and it helps them learn how to teach their students how to thrive using creativity. It also helps them to learn how to teach their ideal class and what that means. So we work on a lot of different concepts that are completely off of the apparatus. It's a lot of movement art. It's a lot of understanding of the body and getting in touch and connected with ourselves. And registration for that opens on December 13th. And then cycle 3 starts in January of 2021. So I'm excited for like a new cycle of working with instructors on how to just become more in tune with their class and with their students.
That's beautiful. How can we find you? How can we support you? Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media, mostly on Instagram. My personal page is Instagram at Gena it's Gena Marie Aerial, and then at SOAR Aerial Dance. And then a shout out just to all of the people that I love so much, like Shannon and Rachel and, Blue and people that I've, mentioned, but also all of my students and the people who are keeping me thriving throughout this pandemic. And shout out to Black women, because I swear to God, 2021 is going to be the year of Black women. And I've posted this all over my social media, but I'm so hyped for 2021 because I cannot wait. Like, you see all this little things that Black women specifically are doing. Like, there's just all these little things, and it's going to come to an implosion in 2021. And I am all the way here for it. So yeah, shout out to Black women. because it's about to be our year.
Yes, yes, it is. It already is. We are claiming it.
Yes,
I claim it for you.
absolutely.
I claim it for myself. I claim it for all the Black women all over the world.
Yep, exactly. All over the world, because this is our year. I have no doubt about that in my mind. Like, even though 2020 has been a train wreck for people, I knew in 2019, I was like, 2020 is going to be my year. And it has been. Yeah, I've done it all in a pandemic, but my business is thriving for me, right? Like, it's working for me. Like, I love what I do, what I'm doing, and I love the training programs that I'm creating. And I'm in the process of creating another aerial teacher training or aerial hoop teacher training for people. So yeah, like, it's just up and up from here. We're just gonna keep flying.
Thank you so much, Gena, for coming onto the show and for inspiring us endlessly to be incredible Black women. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Thank you for having me.
You're so brilliant. I'm excited for everything that you are putting out into the world. Thank you for continuing to thrive. Thank you for continuing to push forward and take everybody with you. You are such a force to be reckoned with, and I'm grateful to speak to you, to know you, to be connected to you. And please, I don't really have to tell you this, but keep going. I support you. The community supports you. And I'm just so excited for you to continue to flourish in this medium and to continue to insert yourself in this medium that needs you. That needs you.
Thank
and
you.
that needs Black women.
Yes, it's the year of Black women.
So look out, circus, and look out, world. We will continue.
So happy to have been here. Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure. Thank you again, Gena.
I want to conclude this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, where I interviewed the incredible Miss Gena DuBose, with a quote that Gena herself uses in her business signature, and one that I feel sums up the energy of our conversation together. It's a quote by iconoclast Maya Angelou, and in her poetic wisdom, she says, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." I hope you enjoyed my interview today with the lovely Gena DuBose. And thank you so much for listening. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. Please consider subscribing to the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and to the circuspreneurblog.com, where you will find extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.